7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order.
Move to adjourn.
Non-debatable.
Yeah.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of us are voting members. Matt will not be coming tonight. He's got some sort of family thing. So all of us members here are voting members. Not that it matters, because I hope we don't take any votes other than to adjourn at the end. So let's see, what was next on the agenda? Minutes. Consider the minutes of the previous meeting, which we all got by email from Carrie.
Motion to approve those.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor? The minutes are approved. Great. Okay. I wanted to talk about subdivisions and how we're going to go about it. Looking at a subdivision, I have a packet which doesn't have enough information in it for me to distribute one to everybody. In fact, there's only one. And so that I don't want to talk about that subdivision. Not fair to them. They're not here. But I'd like to talk about how to do subdivisions. I've not been chairman when we've done a subdivision, I think. Don't know, but I think so. And so I wanted to review it for me, and I wanted to review it for you. We've had some changes in how we do things. For instance, Carrie is here, and we can fully take advantage of her. I'm hoping that this is going to be one of the reasons why you're with us, is because we've now got somebody to keep track of things. That's been a weak point for us. The chair will keep it in their basement or somewhere, and anyway, great to have you here to do that. And we won't have a code enforcement officer with us, which we've had before when we've done this. So that's another thing that's slightly different. One of the things we have to start off with, the first thing we have to start off with, is starting a file. And we will do that at the June 12th is the second Thursday in June, which is when I have told them that we will put them on the agenda. Yep. Yes, okay. So they will be, we will have a subdivision on the agenda then. And we will start the file and keep track of all the documents. This can be a problem in that the order in which we get the documents has to be kept track of, when we get them, that sort of stuff. And we would have had this possibly for our last meeting, but there was a mix-up here in the town office in that the packet came, well, I guess it wouldn't have been the last meeting, but we could have put them on the agenda tonight. The package came in about the 10th or 11th of May. The package came in, it was just put on the table in here, and nobody tells anybody anything. It's like a big company, not like a little company. And so we have to remember, and why I'm bringing this up is not to say anybody made mistakes, but maybe it's our mistake. We have to remember to say to any applicant, if you send anything to us at the town office, address it to the planning board and email Carrie or me, so that somebody knows it's here. And, you know, if it was me, I would come down and pick it up and figure out what it was and what had to be done with it. And that's kind of the chair's job. So I'd like to kind of just go through the subdivision ordinance, just scanning it, maybe missing some things, but I had told the applicant, and you correct me if you told him different stuff after.
I didn't tell it.
Good for you. True lawyer. Good move. I told them, they said, where's the form that we fill out for a subdivision? And I said, I know it's in the ordinance, but we don't have a form that I know of. What you do is you look at the ordinance and you look at the requirements in the ordinance and you just follow through and answer all the questions. Perfectly logical thing to do. So that's what they have done. We have a check from them. I will be asking you about the check, how much you think it should be, because that always becomes a problem for some reason. So we're going to look at that as we're doing this. We've had a pre-application meeting. We've had sketch plans. So we're at the point of 5.3, 5.4. And this is what we are going to be looking for, is a copy of the portion of the USGS topo map and showing the outline of the proposed subdivision, a copy of that portion of the county soil survey covering the proposed subdivision. This, we may be looking at our wetlands map because this is near the Saco River. So that may come into play. And I am going through this, part of my reason to going through this with you is that while the chairman seems to do most of the talking, I view this as we're equals, and the only difference is just an organizational one. Somebody has to do the talking, so I'm doing it. But I view your opinion as equal to my opinion, and you guys, if you disagree with me, should say something. Contour interval and on-site inspection. So it says that we must, and whenever it says something about writing, then we're looking at you, Terry. Okay. It says that we must notify the applicant in writing of the required contour interval on the preliminary plan or final plan in the case of a minor subdivision. This is a major subdivision we're going to be up against. I shouldn't say it that way. We're going to be looking at. Applicant should place flagging at center line of any proposed streets and at the approximate intersections of the street center lines and lot corners prior to on-site inspection. So we've always asked for this sort of thing, but here it is. And on June 12th, we will be pointing this out. If I forget to say it, I'm looking at you guys to help me along, Mike. And we'll be, at that time, setting a date for the on-site inspection. So that's as soon as we can so that we get an idea of what we're looking at. The pre-application meeting, the submittal or review of the sketch plan or the on-site inspection shall not be considered the initiation of the review process for the purposes of bringing the plan under protection of Title I MRSA, Section 302. And that's very important that we watch our language about what we're doing. Are we accepting their application, in which case we are triggering a 30-day deadline for us to deal with the application. I think we can run across that as we go through here. So be very careful not to say that. Wait to make sure we've got everything we want. What the law wants to do is avoid planning boards that say, oh, and you need to give us a drawing with this on it. And they get the drawing with this on it, and they say, oh, we forgot to say, give us a drawing with that on it. Mm. So it's like get all of our wants and needs together in one pile and say, here, this is what we need. And then when we get that back from them, we say, yes, this is an application. We will go through the application with the applicant and make sure we're all happy with what we're asking for and what we're getting.
Joe?
Yes.
It seems to me that we should request that the CEO participate in that discussion. It seems to me that the CEO is going to have much better knowledge about some of the practical aspects of the plan than we are.
I have no reaction.
Can we request the CEO to come to a meeting?
You may.
Okay.
I mean, I have already done that and been, the implication was I was rejected. Bob, do you have a reaction to the request that the CEO be here?
Can you tell me when and what's your
Well, it would be when we go, for me, just personally, when we go over the subdivision plan and go over like some of the details and specs. So whatever the 12th, I guess, is the meeting. And I think it would be valuable to have the CEO's input on whether or not there's any compliance problems with what the subdivision proposes and what the ordinance requires based on their knowledge of the ordinance. They just tend to know different sections much better than we do because we don't necessarily look at, what the road requirements are, what the different aspects of the ordinance are that they deal with. And,
I mean, I can ask him, and there's something for him to look at prior to.
I would assume we'll have a full application to give him a copy of for him to review before he gets there.
So here I can ask him. I would just say that I've gone through the subdivision ordinance, and there's nothing in there for a CEO to rule on. And if you tell me that you're expecting him to be the expert on the subdivision ordinance, I'll tell you that's an ordinance that's strictly for the planning board. So the CEO does not have a vote or a place to make an input on that. But I can ask if he'll be here.
Yeah, I just like making the best decisions possible and having somebody who has that knowledge.
I agree with it. It's good because at the end of the day, assuming there's a subdivision approved, he'll be out on the ground issuing building permits. And he knows in advance what was agreed to in the details because a lot of that doesn't get recorded. So I will ask.
Right.
There is an issue of trust there, which is huge in my book because we haven't seen them since January 13 with them saying slanderous things about me. And so there's an issue of trust.
So is it you don't want him or you?
Excuse me?
Is it that you don't want to hear, or you do?
I personally would be able to deal with the, application better without him in the room. I would be able to function better.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, I understand he may have a lot of information and knowledge and so forth, but I wouldn't trust it. I would have to see the citation for absolutely everything he said.
Okay.
Excuse me?
You said scratch the request.
Okay, okay. So we skip over minor subdivision because we're looking at major subdivision. Preliminary plan for major subdivision procedure. So it starts out with a 6-month timeline from the on-site inspection by the board. We could have had on-site inspection already, but I think it's probably best that they have worked with us, and we've gotten to a point where it's time to look at it more formally. So it says application shall be submitted by mail, and that's where we should put in something about
By mail.
to the board in care of
Or
the
delivered in, by hand.
or delivered by hand, yeah. So that's where we have to tell them email also. I asked for an electronic copy of their plans and didn't receive a reply. Which could be, I don't know about electronic transfer of stuff. It could be too many electrons. It could be too big a file.
Too big.
Or something. I don't know how that works. So they have 6 months to do it also. A clock starts running as soon as we look at the land. And I really think we couldn't have done it before now because the ground is kind of in boot sucking, and we've had snow, and I think when they started talking to us, there was still snow on the ground. And yes, there was. And then in April and May we've had boot sucking conditions. And so those two things are taken into account. So then we're going to look at how much the check is about. Preliminary plan approval should be accompanied by an application fee of $300 per lot or acre, whichever is greater. So that somebody who's good at math will figure this out. That we got a check from them, and Debbie started an account, which is what we do when we get large sums of money from people. We started an account which then gets credited to them.
Did we get a check?
Yes, we did.
And how much was it for?
$3,775.
So it's $300 per acre. This site has how many acres?
And we were talking about the applicant stuff.
Yeah, thank you, David. I am slipping over into talking a little bit about the applicant. I shouldn't be. Thank you.
that should be reviewed
But we should review that's what we should review
when we get the application.
when we talk to them in front of them. We should have the discussion in front of them because, that's only fair.
We probably should have had this discussion.
I think we did, but
I don't remember.
I don't remember the minutes.
And that could be a significant amount. The site is probably, quickly 130 acres.
Oh, that's okay.
I think we did talk to them about, how much it would cost.
In addition, the applicant shall pay a fee of $15,000.
They were at the pre-application discussion. We talked about this.
Yeah,
I think we did the math right there. I don't know.
Yeah, to go into an account for hiring a consultant.
and that's $15,000. On top of this $300 an acre, there's $15,000 to be deposited in a special account.
Looks like my handwriting.
This is in printed form over here.
Yeah, this one, the one on the website,
Somebody added that.
handwritten.
Yeah.
I'm more modern than you.
All right, Joe.
More up to
The,
date.
the handwritten one is the latest.
Oh,
It has the bigger numbers.
15,000. What is the number on yours?
15,000.
15,000.
Yeah.
It's the same. I think what I've got is printed.
The one that I printed off the website said $25 per acre.
Yeah, 25.
That's the second, in addition, the applicant shall pay a
Yeah.
fee of $50 per acre
And
per
it's
lot.
crossed out.
It's crossed out in 15,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, mine is, as adopted March 10, 2001, revised 2021.
Oh, right.
Excuse me,
We didn't revise it.
in 2021?
Well, the one that's on the website is 2001.
It was revised in 20.
Did you update the numbers in 2021?
I think that's where the update came from.
Okay.
So is it,
Then we should be putting
We need to,
the correct one on the website.
which is
One
correct.
person talking at a time. I want to know what Bob said, I want to know what Mariella said. Mariella, go.
I said we should be updating the one that's on the website because I just pulled this off not too recently and it's 2001.
so we can get the latest. approved one
Yeah.
from planning board.
That's not the one that's on the website though.
Mine says 2021.
I put this on the website. I don't know where it came from. I got, this is my handwriting.
You!
No,
No, what actually, what I'd like to do is give this to you. Because I think this is if this says that it was revised 2021, that's the most recent date. And, I don't wanna, you're working, so you're not available during the week. I guess I'll have to do it. I'll come in and I'll talk to, Robin.
You just need it scanned.
We need to scan and have it distributed and see that Robin puts it on the web.
Distributed printed copies or email?
I need a printed copy. There's only so much I can read screens.
well, why don't you make a copy of that before we leave tonight and give her the copy and then you keep your copy and.
I trust Carrie.
That'll give you your printed copy, then I don't have to figure out a way to print
Yeah,
that many copies.
but just if you get it electronically, then you can get it to Robin. Okay, that's the part I can't do.
Yeah, I don't know the genesis of this particular I mean, I know what it appears to be is the version that came after I assume it's 2021, that sounds right, after the 2021 vote. And I don't think I had, my recollection is I don't think I had a Word version of it. So I'm not sure where Joe's comes from. but it must be that somebody had a Word version and we made the changes in there and updated it. But I think the clerk is supposed to certify these documents at some juncture, so.
You know that we, and speaking out of memory because I was on the board back then, when we were looking at, Bill and I was on the committee to update the, definitions. Remember, we spent a lot of time on it, and then there was a whole lot of other discussion about the rest of the ordinance. But we never did get through it, as far as I remember. And that was just before I came back on the select board. And so I will see if we can find a town meeting where it was through in 2021.
My 2001 version here has inked in corrections, handwriting corrections.
In green?
What?
In green?
No, in my special brown.
In your handwriting?
Yeah. And my 2021 version has the agreed on text printed out. So, Bob, are you saying we should wait for?
I'll see if I can find out what happened. But I don't remember it coming up for vote. Maybe it did. I don't know.
I do.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what year.
Well,
But I remember the 15K, because 15K was a big deal.
Yeah.
And,
But I have a Word version of the land use ordinance that we went through, and we did all the definitions updates to meet the state's statute.
and on the internet,
Corrections, but I don't remember being.
on the internet, there's a subdivision ordinance definition.
Policy statement, yeah.
No, there's a subdivision, this is a separate document, it's called subdivision definition. And it says that the Baldwin subdivision ordinance adopted 10 March 2001 is out of compliance with state law. And then there's a bunch of definitions that follow.
Is it Article 3?
No, it's a
Separate document.
Separate document,
I don't have that.
Well, you and I worked on it. We the one that came up with it. You recall.
I don't recall this being adopted, but I don't.
We were required by state law to have it done by date X.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it, and so the agreement was, we'll just post this policy. These are the definitions that we're going to use until we get our ordinance updated. So,
I don't remember that.
Maybe it got integrated into the 2021.
Well, here, so here, the easiest one is look at the definition of densely developed area.
Densely developed area. Densely developed area means any commercial, industrial, or compact residential area of 10 or more acres with an existing density of at least one principal structure per 2 acres. PL 1989.
Yeah, that's what's in here.
So I've got with the definitions.
yeah. And what about the 1971 road?
1971.
Yeah. So when we were looking at the,
So look at under the definition of subdivision.
Subdivisions major.
This subdivision should say something about the division of a tract or parcel of land into 3 or more lots within any 5-year period that begins after September 23, 1971.
Hang on.
something like that.
Subdivision means the division of a tract or parcel of land into 2 or more lots within any 5-year period. This definition applies whether the division is accomplished by sale, lease, development, buildings, or otherwise. The terms.
So that's different than what's in this document. This document says that the division of a tract or parcel of land into 3 or more lots within any 5-year period that begins after September 23, 1971.
And that last phrase, that begins, has been crossed out in this version. The division of a tract or parcel of land into, and it's 3-2 with the 3 crossed out, and I spotted that as a typo. I think that's a typo in my version.
What happened was, we went deep into this as a board, and then decided that we just weren't getting anywhere. Don was,
I had just come on the board when we
yeah,
talked about it.
I'll check and see if I found a town meeting where it amended.
There was a red line document I never seen.
I've got one that had your,
I had some comments on it, and it was when I first came on the board. We never went any further than that.
So, I'm really glad that I brought this up before we did this in front of an applicant. I would be embarrassed. Under this, definitions, under subdivision, the next paragraph is entirely crossed out in my version. In determining whether a tract or parcel of land is divided into 3 or more lots. Do you have that paragraph?
yeah, you do.
I have it all crossed out. I'm feeling that I have the document.
I mean, I don't know the answer to this. I can't recall if this has come up in the past. I think the 15K came up in the past, and I did a history of the 15K, I think, and sent it to Debbie.
Yeah, right. We did go through that, and you came up with a validation that it was passed at a town meeting.
Right.
And so I think in the process of putting together a revised subdivision ordinance, we put the numbers in there. So it doesn't look like somebody just writing them in on their own.
I think what I have here is what was passed out at the town meeting where this was approved. And I say that because I have the complete text plus the crossouts. I have the editing here that you would hand out if you were going to vote on it, so you can see what the difference was. Excuse me?
I don't think so.
Wouldn't we have handed that out? I mean, this is, that's how I get my stuff.
I don't think we did. And I was gonna say, you can do the research, or I'll do the research here in the next day or two to validate whether there was actually something passed in 2021. And that was when we were working on it, and when I was on the board, and we walked away from it, I think we were deep into, some other things at the time. Including finishing up with the campground. We just,
So I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm looking to the board for some advice here. Do I just tell the applicant, look, we don't even know what the ordinance is we're dealing with? And we can't help you right now. I mean, I don't know what to say. I really don't. I don't think that's legal for me to say that. I don't know what the fallback, I
think in the next day or two, we figure out which one passed.
Okay. I'm going to continue as if this is the document, because I need to have something I can anchor myself down to. Otherwise, I mean, I really don't know what else to do. So we're looking at Article 7, the preliminary plan for major subdivision. We may be willing, we may want the $15,000. I don't know if we have ever waived that for anyone or not.
So at the pre-application meeting, what I conveyed to the applicant was that, given that this was close to the Vega River and there was a lot of, protected area, whether it be, I don't remember all the, there were some vernal pools and there's a bunch of stuff going on. I mean, it's complex and it's environmentally, from my perspective.
Yep.
And I said, I think from the board's perspective, we just don't know a lot of this detail and what we have to protect, what we have to be careful of. And so it may be a situation where we will want to hire somebody to help us with the environmental aspects of it. He actually gave us the name of a company that did that sort of thing for one of the other projects. You all remember which project? He identified a project like Saco or something that this environmental company did like a, you know, they reviewed it, they audited it.
Surveyed it.
Yeah, to make sure that it was compliant with all the requirements. And so I kind of indicated to him that I thought this was one of the few, because he asked whether or not we'd be interested in waiving one of the, I don't remember, some water study, because he had dug holes in all the lots. And I said, well, I mean, this just seems really complex to me. I don't know if that's enough to
Okay.
waive it. And he seemed to appreciate that it was, you know, the applicant knew coming in that this was a complex proposal. Like, this wasn't going across the street on dry land.
Yeah.
There were some complexities to it. So I suggested to him that we probably would want that money and probably would want to hire somebody to help us with the environmental.
And we probably won't spend $2,000. It'll probably be under $1,500 to $2,000, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know the cost, but
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know, I did.
Sure.
I was pretty direct on that, and he didn't seem bad on it.
Great. Thank you.
There's a whole bunch of action on subdivision stuff in 2021, by the way. I've got tons of emails going back and forth.
I have a copy of the red lines.
I have a copy of the red line, I'm looking at it. But I'm trying to find where we amended it. So, I mean, I think, Joe, we should probably assume yours is the most accurate, but I think we need to do some legwork and look at what was actually passed. And I think, yeah, this was see, I have an email here to, Rick Lundberg. I don't know where he's from, but so we had a special town meeting that passed some changes to the subdivision ordinance.
So who am I looking at to say, Bob, can you send me an email when you're satisfied you found what is the?
I'll go to them and if we did it, then they'll have a record.
So you're saying Deb is the person who would know? Yeah.
If we go to a town meeting, she's supposed to keep a record of what the ordinances that were passed.
So I'll come in tomorrow and talk to her. Well, I mean, you know, rather than have it go round the, you know,
Right.
email, I'll come in and talk to her. So that's a good way to approach it. Thank you, Bob. Is that okay with you, David?
Any work I don't have to do is fine.
I'm with you all the time. Good advice. I am your student on that. Did we get I know I'm talking about the applicant again, but did we get a letter from the applicant saying that whoever is coming in front of us has the right to represent the applicant? No, I haven't seen or heard of a letter like that. That is something we should remember to ask.
I don't think we ever saw a full application package. Has there ever been?
That's what I'm telling you. I have right here, but this is not, there's only one, and I'm jealously holding on to it because I want to be prepared for
But as
that.
a board member, I haven't seen that, right?
You haven't seen it?
Okay.
Well, that may have the letter in it, you know. Well, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't, like,
No, but agent authorization, I assume that's what we're talking about. Yes, it does. So, okay, yeah, that's the kind of thing that we're going to be going through that about with looking for stuff like that.
And Joe,
Yes,
can we have something like that circulated to the, board members before the meeting?
I would love to.
So we don't have a walk into a meeting cold on something like that?
I would love to. I will try to. I have tried, I did ask him for an electronic submission, and I'm afraid it was like the third email between us, and it just may have.
It'd be great if we could have paper comments,
I-
stuff like that.
I get you. I get you. You know, and I'm being very selfish here and saying, as chair, it's even more important that I have.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a board member, we really,
I get it.
to have a discussion on it, we really need to see it.
Yeah, I will, that will be number 2 thing that I do tomorrow. And that's talk to them about getting something from you. If I can get an electronic copy, will that help you?
Yes, okay. I don't know if that's okay, correct?
It's
For
good
me,
for
it's okay.
Mariella and you. We're set. Right?
Alright.
How about you, Mike? What do you think?
Electronic, yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's
Good, good, great. And I'm pretty sure it's okay for David, so, good.
Alright.
Wow. Amazing. It's 2 things, you know, it's like a subdivision, 2 or more, and I need to write it down. Okay. And I will send the submission to you, the electronic submission to you. And we'll see if we get a subdivision ordinance, I will see if the town can get it into electronic form, in which case we'll get the electronic form also on that. Okay. Within 10 working days of the meeting at which an application for preliminary plan approval of a major subdivision is initially presented. This is tough because it's within 10 working days. Okay. And we don't, our working days are 2 a month. So we shall issue a dated receipt to the applicant, notify in writing all owners of abutting property that an application for subdivision approval has been submitted, specifying the location of the proposed subdivision and including a general description of the project. Now, is this your job, Carrie, that I'm talking about here?
I'm at your service.
Great, it's your job. I love it. I love it. I'm going by David's principle, any work I can do. Notify the clerk and the review authority of the neighboring municipalities if any portion of the subdivision abuts or crosses the municipal boundary. Not the case here. Question. Since this one border of this subdivision we're going to be looking at is the Saco River, do we notify people in Leamington? Are they abutters? interesting because we don't, you know, it becomes a little more difficult to deal with. We don't have a map of who they are and stuff. But there it is. I mean, it seems to me we should notify the people in Wilmington who are across the river. They're abutters with the center line of the Saco River being the property line. Yeah, and one of the reasons, Kerry, why you should have a copy of this is because all of these deadline things are in here. Within 30 days of the receipt of the preliminary plan application, the board shall determine whether the application is complete. So that's where we accept the application. We have 30 days to determine whether it's complete. And notify the applicant in writing of its determination. We can be somewhat informal on this if the applicant is happy with that. In other words, they come in June 12th and we go through things with them and we give them another appointment in 2 weeks to deal with things, because we will be verbally telling them what we find. And I find that people who use professional surveyors and are presented by professional people, generally everything's really in order. I mean, it is so wonderful. And things go quickly. But just remember, all these deadlines have these all in line. If the application is not complete, the board should notify the applicant of the specific additional material needed to complete the application. And that's what we would do. That does not specify that we do it in writing. But I would assume that these things would be in the minutes. So in a sense, by using the minutes, we notify the applicant of what's going on. Upon determination that a complete application has been submitted for review, the board shall notify the applicant in writing of its determination. The board shall, we've never done that I can recall. The board shall determine whether to hold a public hearing on the preliminary plan application. I am a great believer in sunshine, because then when people say, but I didn't know anything about it, I didn't, you know, like, we had a public hearing, we advertised for it, you know, we sent you a letter, so it helps. People get to have their say early on, and I find quite often having the neighbors come in early on, things can get straightened out. I've seen, there was one case of a driveway opposite a neighbor, and the neighbor just wanted the driveway just somewhere else so the lights coming out at night wouldn't shine in their living room. You know, I mean, it's simple. Nobody cared. And that's what we can do that's really helpful. If the board decides to hold a public hearing, so I will be asking you if you want to do that, and it's up to you. We may feel it's not necessary because we'll have a public hearing later. If it was a subdivision for 35 houses, I would definitely be wanting to hold a public hearing. 7 houses is kind of less impact. It shall hold a hearing within 30 days of determining that it has received a complete application, and shall publish a notice of the date, time, and place of hearing in a newspaper of general circulation in the municipality, and that means the shopping guide. At least 2 times the date of the first publication, to be at least 7 days prior to the hearing. What? The date of the first publication to be at least 7 days. Oh, okay, so it could be 50 days. It could be 100 days. It's at least 7 days prior to the hearing. A copy of the notice shall be mailed to the applicant and to property owners within 500 feet of the proposed subdivision. So this, as I read this, this means that the ad in the newspaper would match the notice that we send out in the envelope to the abutters. Within 30 days of the public hearing or within 60 days of determining the complete application will pursue. If no hearing is held or within another time limit as may be otherwise mutually agreed to by the board and the applicant, the board shall make findings of fact on the application and approve with conditions or deny the preliminary plan application. The board shall specify in writing its findings of fact and reasons for any conditions or denial. Okay, so we've got 60 days from any public hearing. So yes, that's the public hearing on this whole thing. So we should probably have a public hearing. People have been asking me already, you know, what's this story about a subdivision on Pitchy Brook Road, and so I, you know, already talking about it, telling people. So that's a preliminary plan, then we get a final plan, and we've never gone through this two-step process, have we, David? This is a two-step process. That's what's getting me, is like I haven't read this carefully before. It's a preliminary plan approval and then a final plan approval.
Because it's a major? Or just,
That's right, we've never done a major.
I'm just trying to think if we've ever done a major. What Firefly was it?
No, that was 5. That was 5.
The ones over there, I think were all minors.
Yeah, people don't want to go through the problems of a major subdivision. Or haven't in the past. Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it before. So, okay, so we have a choice there. So then, this could be condensed, if they are professional and we're professional, condensed in the sense of not having to do twice the work. So then we get a chance to look the plan over and say, these are the changes you have to make. I suspect this is going to be easier than the ordinance anticipates. The character and extent of the required improvements for which waivers may have been requested, which the board finds may be waived without jeopardy to the public health, safety, and general welfare, and the construction items for which cost estimates and performance guarantees will be required as prerequisite to the approval of the plan. I've always thought about this performance guarantees, which we have not asked for before because minor subdivisions don't call for it. But performance guarantees are because the town doesn't want to have a company come in here, start a project, bulldoze roads, pour some foundations, put up a few 2x4s, and head off for California, leaving an unsightly mess in the middle of town. And
Or if it's a sequential build too. I mean, that's, you know, sometimes they say, well, let me sell 2 lots before I put the road in. And then let me sell 2 more lots before I put in whatever. And if it's halfway done, we want to be able to finish the infrastructure before it's...
the electricity, for instance, yeah, getting the wires down a road. Yep, good point. So if we think we want to do that, we have to remember to ask anybody with expertise that comes in front of us to give us a cost estimate. We can either draw on the $15,000 in order to call up somebody to give it, an engineer to give us an official cost estimate, or we can ask the engineers that come in front of us for a cost estimate. Approval of the preliminary plan shall not constitute approval of the final plan or intent to approve the final plan, but rather it should be deemed an expression of approval of the design of the preliminary plan as a guide to the preparation of the final plan. The final plan shall be submitted for approval to the board upon fulfillment of the requirements of these regulations and the conditions for preliminary approval, if any. Prior to the approval of the final plan, the board may require that additional information be submitted and changes in the plan be made as a result of further study of the proposed subdivision or as a result of new information received. Okay, 7.2 submissions. So this will be, I assume, what this booklet covers, is the submissions, the location map, preliminary plan, and it does call one copy of the plan reduced to a size of 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 inches, and all accompanying information shall be mailed to the town clerk for distribution to each of the board members no less than 10 days prior to the meeting. So there you go, Don. So I will put that down on my written list. I can ask for a paper submission. Do you want me to? I'm just double checking. I would like, it doesn't matter if I get it now or before the end of the process. I need it because we need to have one for our paper files. The CEO needs one for their paper files, and yeah, so we need at least two, and mine will be marked up by then and won't be file worthy. So we're going to go through these. I don't need to go through them tonight, but we will go through these in detail with anybody. And then we come on the final plan for major subdivision. Within 6 months after the approval of the preliminary plan, the applicant shall submit an application for approval of the final plan at least 10 days prior to a scheduled meeting of the board. I will be trying to give them a meeting whenever they want one. If they're ready for the meeting, I will try to schedule it right then. I don't want to leave things hanging around. I see no reason to. Nobody's given me any reason to make time stretch out here. If you have somebody who is exhibiting bad faith, maybe you want to stretch things out. But these people have dealt with this so far in a very straightforward manner, which I admire and appreciate, want to encourage in that regard. So they get 6 months to submit the final plan, which will be the preliminary plan plus any changes to that required by the board. They may request an extension, but basically they have 6 months. Wow. And then all applications for final approval for a major subdivision shall be accompanied by an application fee of $300 per lot or acre, $25 or $300 per lot or acre, whichever is greater, payable by check to the municipality. If a public hearing is deemed necessary by the board, an additional fee shall be required to cover the costs of advertising and postal notification. So then we want them to be able to supply proof of approvals from Maine DEP under the Site Location of Development Act and DEP under Natural Resource Protection Act or Stormwater Management Permit. Maine Department of Human Services, Maine Department of Human Services, if the applicant proposes to provide a public water system, which they aren't, if an engineered subsurface wastewater disposal system is to be utilized. No, I think we're looking at probably individual septic systems. But they must answer those questions. So that will be a separate thing coming up. I'm glad that we've gone through this because it's, I've never done a major subdivision before. So we're going to be talking to the road commissioner and the school superintendent, police chief, fire chief. Police chief, I don't know that that means anything, but yes to the fire chief. I would like to see Sanders involved early on with a preliminary plan, what he sees needs to be done for the fire department. Right off, include them quickly. So I'm going to stop looking through this because this being a two-step process, we're going to do it all over again. Basically, only a little bit more fussy. Unless anybody else wants to go through the rest of this.
I don't.
You're good? So I will try to keep us on task and in order and get this done efficiently and legally. I'm really glad to have you, Terry. Thank you. Okay.
And while we were doing that, I'd forward you, just because I figured just two people, a whole bunch of emails about the revisions. It actually looks like you prepared the 2021 version. So,
that's why I know the status of it.
but I'm not sure where the information came from. I can't find the special town meeting. It looks like it was January 21. Like, I can't.
That would make sense.
I can't find where. Like, we must have had to do it by something had to be done by a certain date or something. But it looks like January 21 is when we had a special town meeting. Because it's not in the warrant for 21, March warrant. Because we have the March meeting for 21. It's not in there. But it's weird we would do it.
I will apologize in advance if my memory.
No. I don't think it's wrong. I can't see why you were making, like, I can see one of your emails says says, subdivision ordinance, like, updated 2021. And like, what's the front page of yours look like, the subdivision ordinance?
I've never really found this answer.
Yeah, so this is from you.
Yep.
And this is what the email
I
is.
fully intended to, if we could, planning board that we can go through with it.
But I don't think
Through,
it was,
but
no, I don't think it was that one, Bob, because in June 2021, in May, you're doing a review of the bigger changes. This was before that. So this,
okay.
it's gonna take a little work to figure out what was going on, but I think we did some minor changes in early 2021, and then I think you probably looked at it and said, whoa, wait a second, there's a whole bunch of problems here. And then we were gonna make the major changes, and that never happened. But there was an adoption. I sent you the minutes of a planning board meeting. No, I don't think it's being wrong. I think it's just trying to get some more detail. There is a planning board meeting where we adopted the definition, and we sent them to the selectmen to do something. To post them. But I don't know what it means for us to adopt the definitions, can we do that, the planning board? We must have thought we could.
I think there was something in state law that we had.
So like us adopting them versus.
I'm gonna go and talk to Deb tomorrow.
But read this stuff first, like it's all in your,
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My Gmail is like my history lesson, you know, like
Sure.
I go back to 2013. What was I doing? 2013?
Oh, I know. So great. I want to thank all of you. This has been good for me, and I think good for all of us just to have a little peek at where we're going. You know, this is going to be complicated. There are deadlines. Keep our eye on the deadlines. Keep our eye on the, how many days ahead of time we have to do something.
And if we're not going to meet a deadline, or we think it's not possible, we should ask the applicant to waive, because it's really the applicant's right.
Yep.
So I think we did this in one of the subdivision apps.
We've done that.
We asked them to waive the deadline or extend the deadline by mutual agreement.
Yep.
And they pushed it out like a month because we couldn't get done whatever the situation was. Can't remember what it was. I know
It happens. And even though there are deadlines, it's per agreement between us, and there's a lot of pressure to agree with everybody, to be pleasant to each other. Mike, you usually jump in at this time.
Motion to adjourn?
I second it.
You know, I just cut and paste from this, and I switch around Mike and Eric.
So all those in favor of adjourning?
No.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.